most of the structures for planned gifts are set up in such a way that you can receive a significant tax benefit from doing those gifts. And Pam and others are going to talk to you about those. But at least what the donors verbalize is that's not nearly as important as other aspects going up the list here. But the first two, I think, are really important. Support the same organizations year after year. That's like I'm giving, and I'm giving and I can't stop kind of thing, because of your political or philosophical beliefs. So those are some of the reasons why people give. Now, the other thing that's important about this, and by the way, you can ask any questions, challenge anything I say anytime. It doesn't bother me a bit. In fact, I like it because it's more fun than just lecturing. You can really only talk about 5 minutes before people fall asleep. Are you asleep yet? Okay, one more slide. And you need to look at this carefully. What's at the top of the list? When people are asked who they consult with before making charitable gift decisions, who do they ask first? Say it louder. Nonprofit personnel. That's you guys. Okay? That's Tina. That's Jim. It's those of us who work for nonprofit organizations. Is that surprising? It is surprising, isn't it? Say, well, they'd be talking to their banker, they'd be talking to their lawyer, they'd be talking to their accountant, they'd be talking to the wealth advisor you're going to hear from later this morning. But in fact, they talk to nonprofit personnel.
Why is that, Gene?
What's that?
Why is that?
They trust us. We've got a good relationship with them. So they may be talking about a gift to your organization, but I wrote about this 15 years ago already. That we have an opportunity to help people with their philanthropy, even if they make gifts to other organizations. And that's one of the things the Community Foundation does. We might do it and get fired. Well, we need to understand that helping people with their philanthropy is a good thing, because it might benefit our organization while it's benefiting another organization. And what I've written about is that people who are our bosses, people who run nonprofit organizations, need to be tolerant of those of us who help people think about philanthropy to other causes as well, because it might extend their philanthropy. That's part of what the Community Foundation is doing. Need to be able to think carefully about this and think broadly about this and think about the ways in which you can help people think about their philanthropy. And so that's what I'm going to spend the rest of the morning, this morning, working with you on this. Do you have a question?
No, I was just to say maybe the reason that they speak to the nonprofit personnel is because they want to know what the needs are and find out more about it. Because the Community Foundation staff is down at 22 point whatever.
Yeah, that's a little disturbing, and the Community Foundation people don't like this when I put it up there, even though I'm talking about Community Foundation. But they typically have close relationships with people in the nonprofit organizations. In fact, so here's where your relationship with the Community Foundation matters. The Community Foundation has talent and expertise that you don't have. So you're talking to a donor who might want to do something in the community related not only to your organization, but a couple of other organizations. Where are you going right away? Where are you going right away? To the Community Foundation. Because the Community Foundation can help you, can work with you to work through that with that particular donor. And in fact, the Community Foundation may have some kind of relationship with that donor as well. But then look what's next. Independent financial or wealth advisor. And so we encourage wealth advisors to also understand something about this from more than just the perspective of managing their money and advising people about what they can and can't give away. When we published the first of these, our Bank of America did it. Now it's they bought U.S. Trust. a very wealthy person living in New York but operating a big business on the West Coast got a copy of this from his financial advisor, and he called me. And he was bouncing around this, and nobody was interested in talking to him, probably thought he had a kook on the line. And so he said, this is the first time, when I read this report, it was the first time I was ever able to see how my philanthropy is compared to other people's philanthropy and other people with the same wealth that I have, because this report also stratifies the wealth and what people are doing. And he said, I'm giving away $10 million a year. No, it's not shabby, is it? And I said, why are you giving away $10 million a year? And he was giving it to his church and to his university. I said, why are you giving away $10 million a year? And he says, because my tax advisor says I need to do that to maximize my deduction. I said, did you ever, does any of those gifts have any meaning to you? And he said, no. I said, well, it's a shame to give away $10 million and not have any meaning or satisfaction out of making a gift like that. So I sent him the philanthropic autobiography and the ethical will. I said, you need to work through these tools. I said, I'll be glad to come and sit down with you in New York and have a session with you about this. I never could get a follow-up meeting with him, but I hope he would use those tools to figure out some way to find meaning in the gifts that he's giving away. Because it's a shame to give away $10 million a year and not find any satisfaction in doing that. But then they turn to wealth advisors, accountants, attorneys, and community foundation staff. But think of those next three there, because those are the three people who will be involved with any donor who's going to make a planned gift. One or all of those three will be involved. And then the community foundation staff can help you with this. Now, they're getting some advice from some of their friends and their peers, especially the young people today. They like to talk to their peers. They don't like to talk to any of us. They want to talk to their peers about this. And then there's bank and trust company staff, but I kind of put those people up into the independent financial wealth advisor category myself. So that's where they're turning for help. That's why it's important for all of us to know something about philanthropic advising and planned giving. But philanthropic advising begins where we're going to begin this morning, with the philanthropic autobiography and the ethical will. How many of you have heard of these tools? And Pam, you can't hold up your hand. How many of you have heard of these tools? Okay, a few of you have heard of these tools. That's terrific, because that's where we ask people to start thinking about ways in which they make gifts. And some of the community foundations have actually more elaborate tools than this, where they ask donors to go through this process of deciding what their values are and how they'd like to express those values by making a gift. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about helping people understand what their value systems are, where they came from, what might motivate them to make a gift, how they might find satisfaction in making a gift, and then how they could express that in philanthropy going forward. And I'm going to ask you to work through that, because by working through it yourself, you actually get to feel what it might be like for a donor to work through this. And by the way, anytime I've ever done this, even in settings with the people in the room who set up private foundations, somebody said, well, people won't do that. They will do that. You could take a whole group of people. The community foundation could invite in 10 or 20 people and have a session on the philanthropic autobiography and the ethical will. And guess what? People will work at it, and they will talk about it openly among themselves, openly with you in front of other people. It's like not that big a deal. It's not that private. In fact, people are often happy to be talking about this. I heard an interview with Harry Reid on NPR on the way down, and they were talking about how they had apparently a few years ago he took a group of reporters out to a shack where he lived when he was a kid that had no running water or anything. That's where he came from, and he's proud of that. He's proud of that. You know, if you ask me where my philanthropic autobiography starts, it starts when my house burned down and the volunteer fire department came and tried to save it. It didn't, but ultimately burned down, but they tried to save it. I remember that. I remember the outpouring of support. You know, I remember putting envelopes in the church, envelopes in the church